Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 501c Drop. I'm Leah Simmons. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BetterUnite. And today is conversation. I was talking to our guest today earlier this spring. So it's been a couple of months. And we stumbled upon this conversation that I immediately thought, wait a minute, stop what you're saying. Other people need to hear this. So I invited Jeff Givens of Evangelism Explosion, to join me on the 501c Drop where he is today. Welcome, Jeff.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you so much. But before we get to our chat and our talk, I do want to spend a couple of minutes because we do have some fundraising news, which is not always true. But I want to begin to, if you've listened before, this will be a new little segment we're going to do at the very beginning of whether you're watching us as a webinar or you're listening to us as a podcast. I'm going to start sharing with you some of the sector news. So we have a quite active sector and a lot of people looking at it and providing us data. So I thought, let's start by sharing some of that. So a quick snapshot of where fundraising stands this year and what this honestly could really mean for your strategy. First, total charitable giving hit a record $617 billion. We have newly released data from the Giving USA. We also saw Q4 of 2025's data from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project come out. So $617 billion, that's really good news, right? But there is a little bit of bad news kind of wrapped and couched in this good news that actually Jeff is going to talk to us about how we can mitigate. Fewer everyday households are donating. Total dollars are up because we're seeing wealthy major gift donors donating more, but our overall donor participation is shrinking. Next, we have a major new tax incentive to talk about. A new tax law lets standard filers deduct up to $1,000 for individuals and up to $2,000 for married couples without needing to itemize. That gives us a huge and very practical reason to re-engage those everyday donors, those mid and low level donors, with our efforts to pull them into our circles. And we should do that right now, leveraging this new tax law. Third, clunky technology is costing our sector some serious money. Research is showing us that $155 billion is being left on the table every single year simply because donation pages are being found frustrating or hard to use on a mobile phone. Donors really want and frankly require smooth, two-click giving and quick updates on their impact. And finally, cash is no longer king. Bequest and legacy giving jumped nearly 17%, and more people are donating appreciated stock and through donor advised funds. If we're only asking for cards or cash, we're really missing out where a lot of the actual wealth lives. So, bottom line for us in this next year, the money's out there, but winning it requires a smoother digital touch, clearer tax messaging, and asking for modern assets, not just, pocket change, whatever you happen to have in your pockets. All of this, interestingly, brings me to today's guest, Jeff. He is a live case study of exactly this kind of problem. How do you win back the everyday donor, the $25, the $50, the $75, the maybe the $100 giver, when every trend line in our sector is telling us that they are walking away? And Jeff has interestingly found something that's actually working. So I'm going to introduce you, Jeff, but then I'm going to give you the opportunity to go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, sounds
Jeff
good.
Givens is the VP of Advancement for Evangelism Explosion International, a global ministry that has been equipping churches to share the gospel for 66 years, now active in nearly 100 countries. Jeff's background is actually in television and documentary production, and you're going to hear that come through when he's telling his stories. Jeff, welcome again.
Well, Leah, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. All right, give me like the 1 minute explanation of Evangelism Explosion, what you do, who you serve, and then also that kind of the international scope of your work.
Oh man, this was always the hard elevator pitch, answer
I'm
here.
sure.
Well, if I had to boil it down, Evangelism Explosion is a ministry that equips and trains the local church. We are a servant to the local church. Our founder, Jim Kennedy, he was a pastor, actually a failed pastor. Back
Oh,
in 1950s, he grew his church from about 100 down to 20. And it's a long story, but to cut it short, he found a way to equip and train everyday church going believers how to effectively share the gospel. And his church that he had grown the wrong direction turned around and grew the right direction. And for a number of years, Coleridge Presbyterian Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was the fastest growing church in America. And he had pastors from all over the world coming to figure out what was the magic, what was the
secret
secret.
sauce.
The secret sauce, that's right. And so he spun that off to become his own ministry. And the name Evangelism Explosion comes from, well, for the back to the baby boom, there's a population explosion. Well, why don't we have an evangelism explosion to keep pace? And so, hence the name. And like you mentioned, about 60 or so years later, here we are still equipping churches with a methodology that teaches a pastor how to talk to their congregants about the gospel. Oftentimes, the pastors know how to share the gospel; they're really good at it.
Yeah.
But we want to show them a transferable method on how they can train the everyday person to share the gospel. Because oftentimes they'll know people and they'll be in contact with people that we just don't have they don't have contact with. And
Huh.
so that's what we do in about 100 nations around the world, and have been doing the same thing for about going on 60 years, working in and through local churches.
So then tell me a bit about what you do every day. What does a VP of advancement look like
Oh,
at
oh
Evangelism?
man,
I'm sure
yeah,
you wear only one hat and do just one job.
yeah. I it's a great question. My When I came up, like you mentioned, my background's in communications production, and that's what I did for a number of years with
Hmm.
EE. Was that, and it was pretty easy to say what I did. I worked in the communications department. I made videos. I told stories. I wrote articles. Now, when people ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm in development, the natural question is, well, what is that?
What does
And
that mean?
yeah, and I have the same problem with you to answer that. And what I really boils down to is three things. It's visiting our major donors. It's myself and our president that bear the largest load for that. It's coming up with a strategy for the year for our unrestricted fundraising. And then thirdly, it's directing our communications. We've got a great communications team, and I've got a great team in Natalie and Sheila and Emily, if they're out there. They really help pull this all together. But we're a small team, and we try to get all those things done. But really, my role boils down to those three big buckets: is visiting donors, working on our strategy for the year, and then directing our communications.
Amazing. Well, so before I kind of jump into the campaign that, like, as you remember when you were telling me about it, I was like, hold on a second, I want to know more. I want you to, if you could, if you don't mind, tell me about your donor base historically, right? Before you've kind of started this new initiative, what did it look like? What did they do? You said you mentioned, or you mentioned before when we were talking that you were around 92 to 8 major donors versus everybody else. How do you, or maybe how do you think that ratio came to be, and why, what was like the inspiration that either you or your board or whomever said, okay, we need to like look at this ratio and try and change it?
No, it's true. If you rewound, well, it's true to start with. We had, and we are trying to change about that 92 to 8, 90
Hmm.
10 range on our donor base. If it's a problem of our own creation, and if you rewound 8 years in the ministry to right around 2017, and before that time, we were about a 1.5 to 2.5 on average $1 million a year organization. Now, a lot of that was in restricted funds, and we did have a much larger donor base. Now, like you mentioned at the top with those statistics about the falling
Right.
mid tier, I think we would have been beneficiaries of it back then when it was larger too. But we had a much broader appeal, but we didn't have as many high end donors. And in 2018, we made a decision to shift to capital campaign funding. And so from 2018 to 2022, we ran a 4-year campaign. And from 2022, and we're just ending one now in 2026, our second 4-year capital campaign. And this was like
Oh,
ministry wide, all encompassing. And we averaged about $4 to $6 million a year. So huge jump in profits,
yeah.
but but major gutting of our mid and lowest tier donors. We really only had time to devote to our major donors, and our board came to us and said, "Look, this is great, this is awesome, but we're concerned about the longevity of the ministry. We need more donors in the pipeline, and we're concerned about our major donors having a donor fatigue." And so I wish I could say that, they approached me with that like last quarter and this was the answer. No, this has been something that we've been trying to fix for about a year now. And so this is really the first time that we've seen some success in that sphere. But that's kind of the history of how we got to where we are.
Well, I mean, and you and the entire sector, honestly, the numbers that I'm saying have like that baseline number or the aggregate number keeps going up, but we continue to shed. And that's been true. I'm pretty sure that we have done this sector wide, lost the mid and low level donors since about 2022. So, there's nothing unusual in what you're saying. That I think what's actually, frankly, very unusual is that you decided to actually do something about it. So, all right. So, you let's see, I think you mentioned before when we met, and I don't, so correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm.
that you did try something around like trying to re-engage the smaller donors in something that didn't work. Am I right? Am I remembering that right?
No, you are absolutely correct. Yeah,
Tell me about that.
I'm I'm also pretty good at trying things that don't work. So it's
Oh, you and me both.
yeah, if that podcast comes out, I've got lots of content
Oh yeah.
for there. Yeah, our donor base, just a 2 second descriptor is that we're under the umbrella of like evangelical Christian ministries,
Huh.
and inside of that, we would be focused on evangelism, Christian evangelism. But so it's like we're almost like a niche group inside of a particular audience. And so even inside of the evangelical sphere, there's not always agreement about whether or not you should evangelize. And so I just say that as a point that we're we're a very niche group to find donors from. And so we've tried things like one that just kind of comes to mind was whether it was at like big conferences, we would
Yeah.
have booths, and we've had some success, but never really wide success. We've tried buying mail lists. We've tried really going after kind of associate groups, or hey, you like this, you might like also
Oh,
like
like lookalike audiences, kind of from a meta perspective, what you would do. Yeah.
and for us that's never really been successful. And like our core donor base is people that have experienced the ministry, usually through a local church. And that's so our issue is that, okay, well, if that's the case and this is something that the church does, then how can we best connect with them, but also not make the church feel that we're trying just to pull donors away from them. And so
Oh, that is a tightrope walking dance for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Imagine.
So, I love our mission statement. It's clear. We work in and through the local church, and so since that's always going to be our modus operandi. We always want to be a servant, and so yeah, there's always that the tension from our side. We want to make sure that they see us as a benefit and not as a drain for what they're trying to do. So all that to say, it's we've tried a lot of things. We one time there was a magazine articles that we ran for a while, and again in Christian magazines, and it was okay, but it wasn't spectacular.
Mm. Do you have so you were trying all of these kind of things that were like outside of what you were doing that was experiencing a great deal of success, right? These capital campaigns. Um, did did you kind of continue to try those and just reiterate, because you just described a whole bunch of things and you said, you're good at trying things that fail, which again, just talked about that at my own personal meeting. But why did you stick with it? What made you continue to try, even though it was, quote unquote, failing?
Yeah, um, that's a good question. A slow learner comes to mind. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I am blessed. And our president has done a good job putting it together. Where it's a very patient board that we have. And I think they recognize that we do have to solve the problem at some point
Hmm.
um, on new donors and especially the mid and lowest tier because a lot of the people that are the board members today are started when someone approached them or they went to an EE clinic and even just on a personal anecdote I mentioned to you it's board preparation week, but I've got one donor visit this week, and it's a guy that is one of our biggest donors, but he started out as like a $100, $200 a month donor to the ministry, but it was over time that he eventually became what he is, and so I think that they've seen that happen a number of times within the ministry, and so they recognize that we've got to have some pipeline to refill the ranks as people
Yeah.
age or move on to different interests.
Well, and also just the natural, I mean, there's capacity trajectory that you never know where it lives. So I love that your board has seen that and identified that and is not requiring you only to go after the people that are already in that position. I think that's such a short-sighted way of looking at things. But as development directors, I mean, so that's my background, and I know that you came to this work from a different avenue, but that you can often be tasked by boards with only going after major donors with no thought at all to that mid and lower tier. So kudos to your board when you see them next week.
I'll pass it on.
Please do. Okay, so now tell us we've laid the groundwork here.
Yes.
So tell us about Sponsor a Nation. Why, what you did, how you came up with it, and why it's let's see, it's tied to your triennial global gathering. Got it right.
You got it, and just cut me off because I could talk forever about
I
this.
doubt it.
And
Here we go.
I, oh man, I am. Yeah, it's so the what it is the Better Unite site that we ran was called Sponsor a Nation, and it was raising money for what at EE we our calendar is it's a 3-year calendar, and it gets
Hmm.
reset every 3 years at this triennial event called the Congress of Nations, and it's every nation that we operate in. And so right now it's a little under 100, but each of those nations will send two delegates, essentially an executive director that we call a national director, and then the chairman of their board. Will go to this triennial event and will essentially vote on what takes place in the ministry over the next 3 years. And so it's I rewind how we arrived here was uh, I'll go back even further, back to 2022. We all remember kind of the tail end of COVID,
Right.
and we had our last event look so different. The ministry ended up paying for it all out of pocket because of just how ravaged a number of these national ministries were
Oh,
going through the COVID pandemic.
sure.
But we could not go back to that funding model. Before this will be our sixth Congress. The other four before the COVID one were all nations raised the money for it, and so we could not return. We couldn't bear that burden as the international headquarters, but we also wanted to help them find a way to be successful.
Right.
One of our chairmen from Africa, Patrick Marunga, said that we really need the face of the nations at this Congress, and it's not just a handful from North America or Europe or Africa or wherever. It needs to be everyone from
A
all over the.
global representation. Yeah.
That's exactly right, and I was with a foundation in October of last year, and they had shown me just a kind of a project they had developed on the side. In addition to being running the foundation, they were passionate about private schools, and we're doing these little small fundraisers for teachers, whether it's
Yeah.
$200 for a projector or $300 for a handful of new desks, whatever it was. But I saw it and it clicked. It's like, oh, we could do something like that for the nations, and we went down that road, and it just ended up not being a fit. Great things that they do, But my team, Natalie, Sheila, Emily, we all started looking around for what could we find that could make this work. And I mean, to say we stumbled on a gold mine is the understatement of it all. But like Better Unite was the platform. I mean, it's in addition to the how we set up the fundraisers for each nation, having the requests coming through there, but whether it ran the banquet silent auction, it ran portions of our events. I mean, and that's just what we use this time around. I mean, I'm going to get off track. I'm going to chase the rabbit. I
You're so
apologize.
I love it. You don't have to talk this much about Better
Yeah.
Unite. I really
No,
appreciate it,
no,
and
it's
it like makes me feel so happy inside that
well.
we've
All right,
created
all right.
something that supported you. But the story is incredible.
Yeah, we'll come back to it later. But there's just so
I
much.
love it. Don't get me
There's
wrong, but
so much potential. Like I mean, my goodness, but but yeah, I mean, to say it solved, it answered questions I didn't know I had yet. It really did,
what a
and
good way
so
to put it. That's awesome. Yeah.
it really has. And today we're about 60% or so towards the goal, and I have full confidence that we're gonna hit our goal by the time that we're there. But it really has been just a massive change in how we did fundraising for the Congress.
So what you did was you took the events and then you kind of overlaid them with what in the software world we call a peer-to-peer campaign, right? Where they're and then you got really targeted in what you were asking folks to give. Am I right? And that's the setup?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we asked them for a portion of to help fundraise for each nation. They would to raise a portion of the registration. The international ministry, subsidizes that, but they would raise a portion of the registration as well as
Hmm.
their airfare. And an estimate based on what I could kind of determine was close based on the dates, but even that's fluctuated some. But we and so every nation had a goal, and that would reasonably guarantee them to get to the Congress. And so that's kind of what we went about doing.
That's amazing. Okay, I want to tee you up with what was, I think, my favorite story that you told me when we talked the very first time around Pavo. Am I saying the name right?
That's correct.
Yes. So tell me about your donor, Pavo. Tell us about him, how he ended up being, what do I have here? Seeding a third of the campaign. Just tell the story, please.
Oh, all right. Well, Pavo, dear friend to the ministry, long time ministry partner, and he's one of our major donors. He also is one of our board members. I mean, he's as insider as insider gets. And but Pavo has never really been a what would you call it, like a um, uh, uh, some people are just gifted at asking others for money.
Oh, he's
That's
one of those board members that's like, please don't put me on the front lines. I
right.
cannot, like, it's totally outside of my comfort zone to go
That's
up and
right.
walk up and ask someone for money. I don't know that there's a term for it, but every development director listening has a board member that's just like that. I promise.
That's right. Pavo will help fund it, but little reticent in terms of going to
Sure.
ask. But I had the dear pleasure of working with him over the Christmas break and putting together on the Better Unite site. There's a link to the spreadsheet that basically explains down to the penny where how we're spending every single dollar and the progress towards every nation.
Wow.
And he and I went back and forth and helped to build that. And he has continued to give to these nations. And like even yesterday, he sent out a big blast to all of his family members and all of his friends again. And then sure enough, we receive a number of brand new donors to the ministry for the first time. I mean, it's really changed his relationship with the ministry. I hope he would. He'll see this later. I hope he would say that. I think he would. But he has become such an advocate within his circle of influence, and that's been just so fun to watch. I've watched his kids become much more invested in the ministry, and not just financially, but in terms of picking a nation to support. And that's just been something that's just been really really fun to watch. And he'll be there with us at the Congress, and a number of his children are coming as well.
That's incredible. This is the piece that I think people forget about peer-to-peer campaigns. Like when because I think that they kind of get this, like they get relegated to maybe a walk run or to what GoFundMe does, like let me just give to my neighbor that had, experienced a tragedy or something like that. But when we're like, as organizations, handing our potential ambassadors, like that's the word that
Yeah.
I like to use, that's what Pavo sounds like to me, a set of tools that allows them to, without in person going up or doing anything that's uncomfortable, you hand them these tools, like they really can, they're off to the races sometimes,
Yeah.
like Papo. And I
No,
love that you also mention the way that it engages not just donors, because I do think that as a sector as well, we don't do a great job of acknowledging the volunteers that work for us or the people that give of their time and their talent as opposed to just the treasure, right? So we forget to acknowledge that the treasure can bring the time and talent and vice versa. Both can happen, and they carry a lot of weight, each of them.
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, yeah. It's just the one thing just wanted to add on top of that is just that it's been uh, like a new relationship that I've gained. Pavo's someone that always been close to,
Yeah.
but it's brought us in tighter connection around a particular uh, task essentially. And he's always the one. He's like, "Hey, when did you update the site last? Let me see the link. Where is it?" And it really is like I can tell. Like yesterday, or what's today's Tuesday, Monday afternoon, I updated the site, and I could tell he sent it out that afternoon because we got donations, and I
Right.
knew who they were because they were some of his friends and family. So it is just like I can see how it's brought him joy in being able to do that.
That's incredible. So the first time you kicked this off, it was at your live banquet or gala. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what made you decide to do a live, like give right now moment as opposed to a traditional fund and eat? And was that, I mean, I can imagine that might have been a bit of a nerve wracking experience if you had before done a fund and need and now you're like, no, 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 let me try this brand new thing that nobody's tried before. Well, how did that go down?
It did go well. You're dead on about the nerves. It's
It's like kind of making my palms sweat right now, even talking about it.
Oh my goodness, it was awesome. It really was. The some of the broader kind of scope of what's going on is Fort Lauderdale is where we do our annual banquet every year, and the banquet had gotten to a point where we were going to have to make a decision to either stop doing the banquet
Oh,
because of poor donor turnout and giving, or change format to just kind of like a Sunday afternoon brunch, and it's a 20-minute update, and then we either we got to really scale back, or we have to really lean in and invest. And this year was the year. This past February, we chose to invest, and the cost we've never spent this much on a banquet, at least in my time here. Um, but we've also never had as good of a turnout. It was our largest banquet. We brought in a speaker, and we made the decision that we have to target people that are new to the ministry, people that
oh,
know.
interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, yeah. We did some research and we found out that there's a number of schools down there, private Christian schools, that teach EE to the kids during the school year,
Oh,
and so they're exposed to it. We had a wonderful event planner set up these choirs to come in and sing, and so the thought is that we can get the kids there, that no EE will get some of the parents there as well, and that's it's a new audience for us, and kind of the theme for the night was we want to get every nation supported. And so we had kind of like a phone-a-thon breaks where we started the night with a little bit of fundraising and music, come back to a fundraising update, and then there was another
interesting.
speaker, and
Uh-huh.
kind of back and forth. And it was a little bit of a the two guys that ran the program, or the onstage talent, were more comedic, and so that kind of helped lighten the mood. And
Sure.
it was a lot of fun. It really was, and we were able to get every nation supported, not everyone was obviously fully raised, but every nation had somebody who was given to them. And again, going back to your point, that so true. You said at the top, we have a digital platform to give. It's nice, but it's not as easy to use as BetterUnite. And so we ran everything through the BetterUnite site that night, and I mean, it worked flawlessly. And so we were able to receive donations. I could update a spreadsheet, and then that would show up on our LED wall at the banquet to show where these nations that had lit up that were supported. Light the nations was the theme, and so we wanted to light every nations with at least one donation. And yeah, it was great.
That's so I do a caveat here to our listeners that I did not tell Jeff what I was going to say in my little news
Yeah.
briefing at the beginning. It's truly incredible. But so I understand too that you just said that you were feeding the numbers into the spreadsheet and lighting up your LED wall. I mean, so I understand from you before that you had to kind of step back from the running of the event that you had done in the past. How did that feel?
That
That
was
feels like
hard.
I imagine.
Yeah, it's probably time. I love it. I love program directing. I love production. That's my baby. That's
That's your
what I do.
background, right?
My
Yeah.
background. Yeah, but it's probably time. We got some way more talented folks than me on staff, and so they did a great job. And it I was blessed to be able to sit back and to serve in this capacity. I mean, it makes it so that we could do more of these things. And I'm just I'll give them my 2 cents here and there, but they'll run with it.
So what did it feel like then, Jeff, to like sit back and watch the LED board light up and all of I mean, how did that feel?
It was beautiful. I mean, it
I
really
can
was. It
only
was
imagine.
it was chaotic at times because
Sure.
we would have the guys on stage announce, and then there would be all this flood of activity, and I would get it and I would put it in. But I mean, it was awesome. I mean, and I don't, wasn't in a poll or anything, but I had a number of people tell me afterwards that it was one of the best banquets, banquets that they've been to. And so
That's
that's
so
I think that they, and again, this is just anecdotal, but the speaker, our keynote speaker, at one point got up there and talked about how he had made a large donation to Russia in this case, but it was because that was his background, that was his family was from.
Oh,
And so it just, again, it really, people were got passionate about the nations that they were close to or had an affinity towards.
so you got everybody engaged. They felt drawn. People like me give to a place like this. You just hit on all the right notes, and that's wonderful. So you also, when we talked last time, talked about a Sunday school group in Houston that picked Azerbaijan. Do I have all that right?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm just teeing up stories for you, Jeff. Go take that one away too. I love these stories.
Oh man, this was awesome, and I mentioned about answering questions that I didn't know to ask. This is one. Our no, again, one of our board members, David Self. He's our chairman, and he's long time EEer. He has a Sunday school class at Houston's First Baptist Church, and they decided to adopt the nation of Azerbaijan. I think the amount was about $5,700, $5,600 to get. Elshan is the national director, and then the board chairman to the Congress of Nations. Well, I didn't tell him to do this. I didn't, we made the site, and he just decided that he wanted to do that. And I think it's just worth mentioning that from that group, I think is about 16 or 17 donors in total had given to Azerbaijan, all from that class. The vast majority were first time donors to EE. And why that's significant is that I've spoken at that Sunday school class a number of times. Our president, John Sorensen, has spoken at that Sunday school class a ton of times. I like them, they like me, but the difference is that they like me, but they love David.
Mm.
David is the one that, and David was the one that got up and asked, and so that made all the difference in the world. And so I was just so it was a treasure to me that I could be there the week that they had reached their total goal. And I had brought with me a video from Elshan from WhatsApp, being able to thank not only David Self, but the entire Houston First Baptist Sunday school class for helping him get to Congress. So So I think, there's the personal aspect of it, just the clarity and just the connections. I mean, it was a real special time.
It's such a good point you're making, Jeff, too, that we like, because so often it's it's just this kind of development directors are walking, well, what you do all the time, right? You go up and you meet a person that maybe you don't know, and they were, somehow engaged with your nonprofit or your mission, and then you're talking, but you're really effectively strangers. But when
Correct.
they already have this love for this person, and then this person says this, it's such an easier lift. I mean, so much simpler, and much, it's either people like me give to people like this, so you should too, or an aspirational person that I really want to be like that's already in my life gives, so I should do that too. That it's like all of those psychology pieces are so fascinating to me, frankly, too.
No, you're exactly right, and it's and that what the fun part was is that was, in hindsight, it should have been, but that was not um, the strategy that I was going
Right?
for.
You didn't think to do it, it just happened.
It
Yeah.
just happened. That's right.
Well, so you got all these brand new donors from one group, from one nation, and I would imagine that like not too many people in that group had a real connection to Azerbaijan, or am I incorrect in saying that?
You're exactly right. I don't think anyone in that Sunday school class, I could be mistaken, but I think I could say this with confidence that no one has been to Azerbaijan in that group. It's because of David,
It was
and
that one person. That's
mhm.
incredible. So, okay, you also mentioned Puerto Rico to me. So you got 45 unique donors, if I'm getting that right from my notes. Was the biggest participation in the entire of any nation in the campaign. What was different about that one? Why did that one take off?
Yeah, a great question. In an update, they're up to 51 since the
Oh,
last time that we spoke. So they keep working. That one, again, it's a little bit of the same story, but it's different as well. We have a staff member here, Will Rodriguez. He is one of our leaders, but a staff member here, and he's Puerto Rican. And when he saw the site go up, it just like clicked, and he went full bulldog mode, and he reached out to pretty much everybody that he knows in Puerto Rico, friends of friends. He got churches talking about it on Sundays, taking up collections, sending him cash sometimes, some people giving him money, and then he would turn around and donate it. And what it ended up being is that kind of that they again, Will Rodriguez, he loves Puerto Rico, but he also deeply loves EE, and was actually came
hmm
to Christ through the ministry of EE. And so he in turn he goes and asks, and these people, in this case, the churches that he reached out to were all churches that had done evangelism explosion in the past, and so there was a connection there, an affinity there. And what's different about Azerbaijan, whereas once the campaign's over, we'll keep engaging with those Houston's folks, but we'll probably encourage them to give to our unrestricted
Sure.
ministry. Most of the Puerto Rico folks will never give to EE unrestricted, but they will give to EE Puerto Rico.
Sure.
And so I've been in talks with Will to help set up again a BetterUnite page that would help support Puerto Rico in an ongoing capacity. And if they have a base of, let's say you just lose some of those 35, 40 donors, that's enough to do some substantial ministry in that nation. And now I get to work with that national director on, well, what's your ministry plan? Let's spell it out, and getting to teach them some of the finer tools of BetterUnite with the email follow-ups, the communications aspects, the reporting, and so really being able to turn them loose to fundraise effectively in their nation.
I mean, it's almost like you're almost creating these like fundraising chapters, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but so you also talked to me about setting up, or thought you were thinking about, I can't remember if you did it or if you're thinking about it, but maybe like a genius bar at your Congress in Bali that could maybe do what you're exactly describing, teaching national directors how to run their own pages, their own peer-to-peer or fundraising pages. Do you have any update there, any long-term vision? And please correct me where I was wrong in describing what you told me back to you.
Oh man, no, no, absolutely. That's exactly right. I got some flack in the office for calling it the Genius Bar.
I love that. Why?
Uh, well, they
It's a very
associated it with
relatable
me.
phrase.
Yeah, yeah. They said it wasn't fair. I wasn't. That wasn't my role. So, um, yeah, it's update there. I had our national director in Uganda reach out to me yesterday via email, wanting to set up his own page on BetterUnite. I had our gentleman in Czech Republic express some interest in ongoing help there, and so I'll address even something newer as well here in a second. But
Yeah.
absolutely, the nations, not all of them, but those that have experienced success and have done the work. So in addition to the Better Unite site,
Hmm.
we produce some internal plans for here's who you should contact in a given week. We pre-wrote text messages, we pre-wrote emails, we did
Yeah.
call scripts, we did the whole thing to help them kind of know what to say and how to ask for an ask, and then how to get in front of somebody and see if they would support them. And for those that did that, they really did experience success and grew their donor base and were able to receive funds. Those folks are lining up to come to Congress. And what our hope is that before we get there, that our event is in the first days of November. We would like to run them all through sort of a Better Unite Academy. You guys have done a great job with training already, but kind of compare that with some internal steps that we have.
Sure.
What's your budget, things like that. What do you want to communicate? What are some realistic goals, and how will you be sure to follow up things kind of like that. And so that's our plan right now. And then just and again, something that's kind of news popped up, a new opportunity. Another one of our staff members that's based out of Houston, not David Self, but a different guy. He has approached me about starting a Houston 100, 100 donors that give $100 a month, but linking them all through Better Unite. This is a guy that's used to be a fundraiser for Rice University,
Oh,
super knowledgeable, and he just when he saw what we did with the Better Unite Light the Nation's Sponsor Nation plan, he was like, I want this for Houston. And so it's still, again, it's such a great way to link together a group of people with a central person or two for the communication. And in this case, we'll test drive that probably here in the next month or two.
oh, that's so cool. Well, two things. Two things. First, if you need Better Unite support for your Better Unite training, please let me know. We'll happily, I mean, you're welcome to fly one of our folks to Bali, and I'm sure
All
they'd be very
right.
happy about it. But you could also Zoom call in one of our account managers and can run the trainings and be happy to do that for you guys. And second, I love that you're moving. So this is like now moving beyond the peer to peer and into that giving circle kind of effort that we all know is so successful. And you just like naturally migrated over there. That's so cool, Jeff. I can't tell you, and this was, when I posted about this talk yesterday and when we first talked, and I felt like you were like, what, why is she this interested? Because it's just, I hear so much about losing these mid and low level donors, and you actually are doing something about it. And it's, in this, just clever way that is opening up. And I really truly hope that folks listening figure out what it is for their organization. Everyone is different. We're all special snowflakes, but find a way to kind of encourage this giving that just it really does engage those mid and low level donors that we absolutely need in our pipeline. You use the right word there. I think pipeline is the word that we're we're missing on as a sector.
Well,
Okay, sorry. So here's the real headline in my opinion. A $25 gift. You even said this when we talked last. I don't know if you remember this, it's been 2 months, but a $25 gift can feel meaningless when you, like you said, you're raising $4 and $6 million a year. But when a donor can see Nepal needs $1,800 to get to Congress, all of a sudden, $25 makes a really big difference. It feels like a much bigger gift. Tell me about that. Like what was the kind of light bulb moment that led you to that thought? Because I really think that is the crux of this whole conversation.
Oh man, I don't remember saying that. I remember feeling that. I don't think it was that. I was way more articulate than I remember. Um, yeah, uh, like you and me and like our families. We do $50 gifts, $25 gifts to different organizations that we're passionate about.
Yeah,
But I don't expect anything back. I don't expect them to I expect an email thank you or something like that.
sure.
I don't expect any because it's a drop in the bucket against their operating budget. And I know what that feels like. Maybe one day I'll be blessed with huge amounts of money that can make a difference, but today's not that day. But I still want to be a faithful giver. But I also want to be able to let people know that of any donation amount that they are making a difference. And to me that responsibility does fall back on squarely on my shoulders. I want someone that is sacrificially giving, whether it's $25 or $25 million. It's a sacrificial gift, and
Yeah,
they deserve to know that that made a difference. And
right.
for me, um, how this Better Unite fundraiser was set up was that we could show them, here's exactly who you're helping. Most of the pages that we had a person's face on it and a little bit write up about
Oh,
them. And so they got to know who they were helping, and they were able to know, it's like, okay, well, if I gave $25, that's now $25 this person does not have to cover. So even if they don't get the full amount, they know that they're helping to offset the cost for this person. And so I think for us as a ministry, we were crystal clear about what we were raising money for. That always is really helpful. And I'm and in this situation with like you mentioned, well, we're all unique with our ministries and not for profits, and that's so true. And in this case, this is something that we were as a ministry we are going to do this regardless. And it's something that we had to step out in faith to see if there was a way for us to get it done. And um, and to be able to connect with those mid to low tier donors, the $25 givers, that had to be part of the solution, just because there wasn't a way to do it otherwise. And
yeah.
we've been able to see that happen.
That's incredible. I have so many, I've got so many questions listed here, but we're running out of time. So I really want to give you an opportunity to tell us. I got some of the information wrong, or actually, that's not true. Some of the information has increased since we last talked. So tell us where things stand now. Like, what are the donors, the number of donors maybe that you've engaged? And please, if you don't have any of this data, or if
I got it.
don't know that it's right, please tell me. But dollars raised, percentage to goal, like where does the campaign stand right now?
Very good questions. As of today, we have over 285 unique donors to this campaign. And we're not quite, but just shy of 500 total gifts. Most people have given multiple times to the campaign.
Wow, interesting.
And of those 250, the majority, I haven't pulled a report recently, but about two-thirds are brand new donors to the ministry. So for us, no contact, didn't know them beforehand. A lot of those were gotten at the banquet, but we've also gotten a consistent amount of them as people have communicated this out, especially through the peer-to-peer fundraisers. Right now, our goal is $407,000. Against that, we're at 63%, and about 200 and I won't pull up the tab here, but it's about $260,000 what we raised. It's worth mentioning. My president told me yesterday that he's already heard from some different major donors that will help close the gap. If we get down to 50 or something like that, there's already people that are lining up wanting to help finish it off. So again, it's an encouragement to the major donors as well.
That is an incredible point, Jeff, too, because I have, and I find this argument not doesn't have a ton of merit in the first place, but I have heard it articulated that like, wait, well, if we take the focus, eyes on the prize, if we take our eyes off of the major donors, and the major donors see that we're starting to raise money from mid-level and smaller donors, then maybe they're not going to give as much. But what you're finding is exactly the opposite.
Exactly the opposite.
It's
That's right.
incredible. All right. So if you have, we've got some development directors out there listening, some folks that are running their own mission, their own ministries, and they've got that same 90-10 problem. What would you say that they should do this week?
Oh man, this week, we'll reach out to you. I mean, that would be that's the short answer. And I know it may sound tongue in cheek, but that's certainly not.
That's very kind.
It really has been a game changer for us. And but in addition to that, I would ask them this question. What is something that you do that could be segmented out to align with a passion or affinity that somebody already has. Looking back, again, I wish I could say that I had all this thought out from the outset. What made the difference in this case for us is that we were aligning with nations that people often were already passionate about.
Interesting.
People had visited there. They maybe they went there for their honeymoon, or they went on a mission trip as a kid, or maybe they're from there.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, my wife's from the Dominican Republic, so we're passionate about the DR, and so everyone's got some nations outside of the USA
Absolutely.
that they care about, and to be able to match that and still maintain inside of our mission and our vision, it doesn't change anything as far as our focus. It doesn't restrict any money. So if there's something like that you do that could be attached to something broader that would help bring in a new audience, maybe that's something that we're thinking about or talking about.
That's incredible advice. I hope that everybody listening wrote every piece of that down. And if not, go back and re listen to this, what Jeff just said, because it's incredible, incredible advice. Jeff, anything else you want to tell us about what's next for Evangelism Explosion or what you see on the horizon? Anything else?
Well, I hope to send you an email on August 31st with the success of our campaign. That's when we'll close it down, and then we'll start to purchase tickets and do things like that. That's kind of on the immediate horizon. And then in addition to that, it really is our fiscal year started July 1, so we've entered a new fiscal year, and BetterUnite is a big part of it. We're planning all kinds of in addition to the next year's banquet. We've already started to develop that. Other things on the horizon for EE. We're traditionally a small shop. It's myself and our president that do the vast majority of the fundraising.
That's
And this
incredible.
and this year we're gonna incorporate. We're lumping in one, two, three, four more people to that. But again, it's the truth. It's because of the success of BetterUnite. We realize there's a number of staff members that have the knack for fundraising, and so they'll pick up a portion of their role will now be to fundraise, and so that's something that we're trying to get more organized and get more serious about a broader development strategy. And so that's something that I'm really excited about in the days ahead.
I just can't, Jeff. It has filled me up to know that Better Unite's been able to play even a small part of this. My cheeks hurt from smiling throughout this so much. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for allowing Better. I mean, you're really doing all the hard work. I really want to make sure that everybody hears that, and that we can be a contributing factor to it. Just is incredible. And anyway, I appreciate your time today so much. I really do. I was saying this yesterday in a post that I kind of get data fatigue sometimes because you get all this information, and it can sound good, it can sound negative, but like a lot of times I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not sure what's the action to take. And you have come up with an action that has proven itself to work for your organization, for Evangelism Explosion, and your community, and your global community. And I find it so inspiring. I truly hope others take heart and listen. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate you.
Well, it's been a pleasure today. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So everybody listening, again, please go back and listen to anything that you might have missed. I'm trying to find my share button here. I've just been enthralled and not telling you all anything. I want to share with you what's coming up next with our at our next 501c drop. I didn't even share this at the beginning, Jeff. Here's your intro slide. This is our conversation. It was wonderful. If you have, Jeff, I hope it's okay if people have questions, they can ask you as well. I've got Jeff's information here. We'll put that in the show notes. You can also email BetterUnite, support@betterunite.com. If you have questions, we will make sure to get the answers from Jeff. And you can also connect with me if you scan the QR code there on LinkedIn. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Leah, Leya, spelled weird, Simmons. And next week, we will go behind the scenes with Kirby for event day breakdown. Kirby Cathy on our team is our event specialist. She has attended truly and literally over 1,000 events in the last couple of years. She knows everything to avoid, everything to absolutely do. Jeff, I think you should join this one as well, given you're leaning into your events. Everything to make the people that attend your events as happy as they can be. And let me also add, make your staff, the people that are running your event, staff and volunteers, let them be happy too. The events do not need to be terrible. They can actually be quite fun. Kirby finds a way to have fun at every event she goes to, and she goes to a whole lot of them. So join us next Tuesday, August 4th at 1:30. You can scan the QR code if you're looking. Otherwise, come back, listen on the podcast on Spotify, or find us on YouTube. We've got clips there on YouTube as well if you want to send out small clips from these. We love for you to do that also. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Also, Jeff mentioned BetterUnite a couple times. So if you want to scan this QR code or email again, support@betterunite.com, we would love to show you around BetterUnite. Our team is ready and waiting. We show you exactly how Jeff built out a peer-to-peer campaign with and alongside an event. We do it all the time, every single day, and we love to show new people how to do that. So scan that, go to request a demo from betterunite.com. If not, again, I really appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for all that you do, for your huge heart for your ministry, and for sharing all of that with us today. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. Have an incredible rest of your day, and let's all go do some good. Bye-bye.